Giant Salvinia, also known as Salvinia molesta, is an invasive aquatic plant species that can be found in our Texas lakes. Because Salvinia is not native and has fairly recently been introduced to Texas, it has disrupted ecosystems and caused major problems and disturbances. Acting as if a parasite, giant Salvinia steals nutrients from other vegetation and kills organisms lying underneath the thick fern layers. The Salvinia forms an opaque blanket on the surface of lakes, cutting off oxygen and sunlight supplies to organisms beneath the surface of the water. The floating fern, another name for Salvinia, originated in southeast Brazil and has been distributed throughout the world at the fault of aquarium keepers, as well as by watercraft going in different water sources uncleaned, allowing the plant to spread globally. Salvinia was first discovered in a Texas lake in 1998, and ever since, Texans have encountered numerous difficulties with this intrusive plant, as it claimed entire lakes as its own grounds, rendering many lakes impassable and unlivable for other organisms. As for the rest of the country, Salvinia can be found in California, Louisiana, and Georgia for a few examples. The problem with trying to eradicate the plant is that pesticides cannot be used as they are harmful to other life forms. The Salvinia grasshopper is one of the very few consumers of the unnative Great Salvinia. Due to Salvinia's lack of predators, its populations are able to increase immensely in conjunction with its abnormally high rate of reproduction, taking only 4 to 10 days to double in size. Two other predators are the Salvinia stem borer moth and the Salvinia weevil. Together, the grasshoppers, moths, and weevils feed on the stems and leaves and are virtually the only organisms that prey on these invasive aquatic ferns. A food chain pertaining to Salvinia does not have much variety due to the shortage of available consumers, but as with any food chain, it must start with a producer, in this case, the Salvinia. It is then consumed by the Salvinia grasshopper, a large food source for many animals, and are eaten by a variety of birds, such as the Henslow sparrow. It lives close to the Caddo Lake, which is affected by Salvinia. At the top of the food chain is found the Cooper's hawk, which preys upon the Henslow sparrow at the 4th trophic level. The carrying capacity of Salvinia in an impacted reservoir, meaning that it has higher nitrogen levels, is 36.4 grams of dry mass per meter squared, while the carrying capacity of Salvinia in a non-impacted reservoir is only 3.0 grams of dry mass per meter squared, which is a 33.4 gram difference. Salvinia has a profound effect on Texas lakes, such as Lake Houston, Lake Raven, and Lake Conroe, socially and economically by clogging hydroelectric intake filters as well as stopping irrigation for crops, putting a halt on food production. Salvinia layers can become so thick it can leave lakes unpassable and kill organisms beneath the surface, such as fish, due to a lack of sunlight and oxygen. There are very few solutions to ridding water sources in Texas of Salvinia without causing a negative impact on the environment. For example, herbicides could kill off entire Salvinia populations, but not without first affecting and harming other organisms. The effects of herbicides on the environment are major. These negative impacts do not disappear, but instead strengthen through bioaccumulation. Once the chemical is released and absorbed through fish and other organisms, the parts per million of the chemical in the organism steadily increases as the trophic levels of the food chain increase. There must be something done to stop the widespread distribution of Salvinia and other water sources, but this cannot be done without the general public's help. Salvinia can be shared from lake to lake by boats and other watercraft that have not been correctly cleaned, and by transferring the plant elsewhere. In order to stop the infections of healthy lakes, you must follow careful guidelines and correctly clean your watercraft. There are certain measures we can take to clean already infected lakes without harming the environment, such as eradicating as much of the already formed populations first, then releasing some of the natural predators of Salvinia into the lakes to consume the remaining plants. As mentioned before, this is the Salvinia weevil, a known natural consumer of the plant. By reproducing these insects, then releasing them into affected lakes in conjunction with Salvinia-eating grasshoppers and moths, Salvinia can be controlled on a much grander scale, if not entirely eliminating the Salvinia population from the particular area. By doing so, we can expect to limit Salvinia populations without harming the environment, and we are optimistic that this can serve as a standalone solution to Salvinia populations in our Texas lakes over time. But we need your help. Always be sure to thoroughly clean your boats as a precautionary measure. Whether you're aware of Salvinia being a problem in the area, it is always a possibility. Help us keep Texas lakes beautiful, and always think before you enjoy the scenery.